Good evening and welcome to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and we have Dr. Robin Titus with us that we're going to meet in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Dr. Kent Gabriel, right here in Carson City, noted plastic surgeon. Dr. Gabriel's specialty is microsurgery of the hands. We'd also like to thank Bank of the West, right here in Carson City, one of the most hospitable, customer-friendly banks. When you walk in, they know your name. And we'd also like to thank the Horseshoe Club in downtown historic Carson City. If you're thinking about a meal, supper, a special evening, why not stop in and visit their newly renovated dining room? You'll enjoy it very much. All right, Dr. Robin Titus, thank you so much for being with us again.
Carol, thanks for asking me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You know, Dr. Titus, or Robin as I'm going to call her, was one of our very first guests, and this is a unique woman in so many different ways. And now she is back with us because she is involved in a very important campaign, a very important political position. And Women to Women is not a political show, but we like to feature women who are making a difference in Northern Nevada. Certainly, Robin, you are. Can you kind of catch us up real quickly where you're originally from and how you got here to Nevada?
Well, my family's been in Nevada since the 1880s. My grandfather came here as a gold miner, and then he ended up in Smith Valley, or in a little mining town between Smith Valley called Pine Grove.
Okay.
Met my grandmother and our great-great-grandmother, and they moved to Smith Valley when my grandmother was being born. So they've been in Smith Valley literally since the 1880s. During World War II, my mom met my dad, and who was from the back east. They married, and so I was born in Trenton, New Jersey. And when my parents divorced, we moved my mom and four of us children to Smith Valley, where I finished out my high school and have been ever since.
You have a wonderful family ancestral background.
I do.
That's for sure.
Just real quick, my grandmother went to UNR and graduated from UNR in 1912 as a teacher and taught in Smith Valley.
And that was rare in those days for that to happen.
Yes.
I can identify with that. My mother, 1903, a teacher, and there wasn't that opportunity for women as there is today by far. So, Robin, I know that you are involved in a very important aspect of your life, not just for your own passions, but for the people that you represent here in Nevada. Tell us what you're running for.
Well, I'm running for Assembly District 38.
Okay.
It involves most of Lyon County with the exception of Dayton. It cuts off at 6 Mile Canyon and goes east, and it includes all of Churchill County. And it's a seat currently held by Tom Grady, who is term limited, so he's not able to run again. And it's primarily a Republican district. There's about 60% Republicans in our district. So the Republican primary really is the key to this race, because once the primary is over, we have one independent and a libertarian running also, but no Democrat even filed for this race. So for this particular area, it is critical who wins the Republican primary.
You have many capabilities, and you serve with your talents all over Northern Nevada. But what is it about this particular time in your career, this particular time in your interests with what's happening in Nevada and in the country, that you are taking the step forward for a legislative position? What do you want to see happening?
Well, I've been in politics for a long time, or involved in what's happening around, and I had planned on running for this particular seat for many years, but jumped into the political arena several years ago when Harry Reid was up for re-election, and I was one of the plethora of candidates that thought we would unseat Harry Reid. The thing that drove me to jump in at the time was the Obamacare, because I felt that all physicians, we would love to have health care for everybody, but the people that were passing these laws, writing these laws, had no idea what that even meant or what the trickle-down effect was going to be on these laws. As a matter of fact, there was a comment by, at the time, Speaker Pelosi that they had to pass a law to see what was in it.
Yes, I remember that.
And having read that bill, it was very alarming to me that those kind of things were going on. And so I jumped in at that time, and then when I saw that there were many qualified candidates running, and I wasn't getting enough financial background support, I decided that I would withdraw and support all the other candidates, and put my interest into making sure that whoever was the candidate chosen could be the possible best one to unseat Harry Reid. And of course that did not happen, but I've stayed very active since that time. And as we know now, Obamacare, in my mind, it has been a disaster. It has has not been rolled out as everybody expected.
Right.
It has rolled out as we predicted, those of us who are involved, saying you cannot just bring people on like that. There's going to be a huge cost. And I see patients every day that have been affected by these laws.
And I think that one of the important things, Dr. Titus, is that the American public, because we're not in the medical field, we're indirectly affected by costs, loss of this or gain of that. But like you say, every day you treat patients and you're having to deal with a whole new method, a whole new system. And I think that you can be one of those individuals who makes a difference, a significant difference in our understanding of what we've gotten ourselves into.
And it's not just healthcare, it's much more than healthcare, where I feel, have this overburden of government, where people, small businesses can't get things done. We're trying to get a mine in Mason Valley that we're hoping would employ a lot of people for our community, desperate in need of employment. And it's been many years in the making, trying to get this mine approved. And there's all these layers of bureaucracy that folks are going to, and it's just these layers of government, not just in healthcare, but in all fields.
And I think, historically speaking, going back to the founding fathers, our foundations, one of the great fears of our first 2 and 3 presidents was that government could become so intrusive, so large, that we would become beholden to it, rather than the opposite of it beholden to us.
Right. In my mind, and what I interpret our forefathers as seeing the needs of government were only to supply things that we as citizens could not do ourselves.
That's right.
And so, of course, defense and infrastructure and some of those things were obviously critical. But we didn't have career politicians at that time. George Washington is a great example. He could have been king if he wanted to, but he chose to go home. Right. And I think that for me, I have a great career. I wear many hats. I've been a proven professional and dedicated to my profession. But I'm also passionate about Nevada and passionate about the future of our state and our country. I have 4 little granddaughters, and I'm worried that we have gotten very sideways of what is important for our state, and I just think we need to be more involved.
And in addition to that, Robin, let me ask you this. In your medical practice, you have to see, men are fine-tuned in many ways that we are not, and vice versa. We're fine-tuned in many ways that they are not. So I'm seeing more and more women become involved in politics because I think they are believing that their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, you want to leave a legacy, a future to them. And do you think that we can make that difference by our participation as females if we are passionate about it?
Well, I hope so. I do bring a lot of passion. I also bring a career of listening to people and not talking at people. And when you spend your career listening, taking in their issues and their problems and their symptoms, and then you put that together and you come out and you try to solve problems, I think that gives me a true advantage.
It does, it does. And I'm not sure. Now, we have career politicians, both male and female, serving us. But somehow we have to get back that we're not thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about those that we serve, who put us in that office. And that accountability issue is going to be a big one with the voters, not only in these the 2014 elections, but in the 2016 elections. Because we want people, ourselves as well, we're held accountable. We want those who serve us, that we put into office, pay their checks, to be accountable to us. So what are some of the things besides Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act that you would like to see worked on?
Well, I touched on it a little bit earlier. It's this layer of bureaucracy and this overburdensome of our government. Mostly where I would be effective at the state legislation is just some of these laws that are very frivolous and just add yet another layer. On some of these candidate interviews that people have asked me, well, what's the first bill you're going to try to pass, and what are the laws you're trying to pass? And I'm not going to be there to pass yet another law. Mark Twain said that no citizen is safe while a legislature is in session, or something like that. And I really believe that. And it's not really the job to go pass yet another law. First, we need to know what the problem is. And
what laws we already have that will serve us perfectly well.
If we would just enforce the ones that we have. You know, we have plenty of laws out there. We need to enforce them and interpret them. There's laws become so detailed, they're hard to interpret. Look at the marijuana bill. Whatever side that you are on that, they passed a law legalizing medical marijuana without understanding the implementation of that, the impact that obviously it's still illegal on a federal basis. Where are you going to grow it? How are you going to control it? Those kind of things that are now really trying to be worked out by the local municipalities and the local counties with no understanding about how that was affected. And so there's so much of that going on. And one of the things I hope to bring to the legislature is, number one, is a ability to look at data and interpret it. Right now, you can read an article and regardless of what the data is in that article, you can interpret it many different ways. And I hope to bring a scientific mind to that and be able to really look at it and say, yes, it says that, but if you read between the lines, it really means this. And I think we're lacking that in our current legislature.
And sometimes I have the feeling, Dr. Titus, that individuals who decide to run for public office have really not gained an insight or the experience or the research that is required to listen carefully and to deduct carefully, and then to ask those very important questions. Where is this leading us? Where is this taking us? What's the pro and con? And sometimes as a teacher, as a former teacher, retired teacher, those thinking skills, those reading skills, those research skills cannot just be tossed onto or into a topic that happens to be on the internet right now. Nothing in my mind replaces good time spent reading different opinions, asking different questions, and doing your homework before you talk. Let's have some homework brought to the table.
Right, and I agree. I think that it is all about taking a problem and understanding what the real problem is. Because lots of times laws get passed, well, it's for the children. And it's for the children, it's for our schools, it's for, you know, and of course you want to help, you know, unwed mothers. Of course you want to help get a better education for our children. Of course you want all babies to have health care and immunizations. But at the same time, sometimes that comes with this burden and this other stuff that they tag onto that.
Yes.
Certainly a problem in Washington we're having. They're able to tag all this stuff onto these bills they pass.
All the pork.
Yeah, and you see not so much of that in the state legislature, but you see some of these bills that are thrown out there really, when you look at them, should not be passed. I mean, we had a couple thousand bills in the last legislature session. Oh my gosh, there were some of them that were absolutely crazy bills. And with not a good understanding, you know, there was a bill to limit narcotic prescriptions, and absolutely narcotic abuse is probably the #1 drug, more than any other, you know, meth or marijuana or some of these other street drugs that are out there. Prescription narcotics is a huge issue right now, and it needs to be dealt with. But the bill that was written would penalize the doctors for anything that the patients did if they were under the influence of a prescription that we had written.
That they were abusive with.
Exactly, and it was like, we as physicians said, well, yes, there's a problem, but that's not the solution.
Okay, are you saying this? That in legislatures, whether they're state or whether these are federal positions, the right people who represent, if this is a law that's dealing with prescription narcotics, okay, then the people that need to be really thinking and talking about this before it's presented to the public or presented for passage need to be those very individuals who work in that industry, who work in that field.
Yeah, absolutely, because one of the consequences that was not seen, and the bill was withdrawn because we objected to it. Because I was the chair of the family practice, the Nevada Academy of Family Physicians. Okay. I'm the immediate past chair, and we were actively involved in saying, this isn't the solution. We can sit down with you, and they withdrew it for that very reason. We said, let us help you write a bill. Let us you know, at least have us at the table.
Yes.
And what are the ramifications of a bill like that? First off, we were concerned like cancer patients who definitely need pain control. Doctors would be afraid to write those prescriptions if a bill was out there. And so those are the kind of things.
Written the way it is now.
Written the way it was last legislative
okay.
session. So hopefully we get a better bill out of that by sitting down at the table and working together. First, you have to identify what the problem is.
Right, and we're going to identify a lot of things in the second half,
Yeah.
okay, when we come back, especially what's up here in front,
All right.
okay, as part of your campaign. So don't go away, we'll be right back.
Come to the Carson Horseshoe Club for fun and friendly service. Play your favorite games. Join our Players Club, where you get cash for points plus food comps, and enjoy casual dining in our Lucky Horse Grill. Get it all in the heart of downtown Carson City at the family-owned, local favorite Carson Horseshoe Club.
I was 36, wanted to do something that was boldly different. We sold our house and drove west with the idea that we were going to be in the wine industry. We lived in a teepee for 2 months.
I mean, if you're going to do something, why not do it with your whole heart?
It's that creative outlet of being able to make something and make something that comes from the land. Bank of the West said, we have complete faith in your brand. Don't do anything to compromise it. Banks don't say things like that.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com. Welcome back to the second portion of Women to Women. We're here with Dr. Robin Titus, MD, and we're going to return to Robin because these are what we want to address and some other controversial issues. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the second half, Villa Basque Deling Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, and it is delicious. We'd also like to thank Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oil, aged balsamic vinegar, and international health teas. And then we'd also like to thank very much carsonnow.org. It is the 24/7 place to be on the net. If you want to know what's happening in Carson, it's carsonnow.org. All right, Robin, let's return. I am curious about these. What are these being used for, and why now? Why here?
Well, the file in front there was the first piece of campaign material I got.
Okay.
Because one of my goals is to file down government. And I think that when I give these out to voters, I say, I'm going to give you something useful, number one. So I hate waste. And number two, this is really what I'm running for, to file down government. And these buttons are something that a patient of mine who is 90 years old wanted to help me in my campaign and was desperate to help me. And he showed up with about 200 of these campaign buttons that he had personally done.
Wow.
These are hand-done campaign buttons because he wanted to help.
How
he was
beautiful.
so passionate for my race.
And you know what? If you win, those are going to become collector's items.
Well, I have every intention of winning. So
I think
that's,
you do.
You know, I have a good chance. I have a very good Nevada opponent. This has been a fun campaign, a fun race. I've enjoyed it. We've gone out and met the voters. My opponent is somebody who is also an old Nevadan, graduated from high school the same year as I. His family came into Nevada about the same year as mine. So we're truly Nevadans, passionate about what we do.
Yes.
We bring different things to the table. But to me, had a fun debate. We had people come up to us afterwards and say they actually learned something.
Excellent.
And it was just fun. And so at the end of this, after June 10th, I've told him I would put his campaign flyer on his campaign sign on my fence, and he'll do the same for me because we are running for Nevada.
You know, you have a remarkable story coming from where you originally started out as a young girl to where you are now, and in a kind of a brief amount of time. Can you share that? Because you are making a difference, Robin, not only in your medical practice, but for women in Northern Nevada, and it's a great story. Can you share that?
Well, growing up in Smith Valley, my family were hard workers, but didn't have a lot of money. When I graduated from Smith Valley High School, I was sought after because I was smart and I was good in math, and the University of Nevada gave me a fantastic scholarship in chemical engineering. So I was the first woman in the chemical engineering department at UNR. So come our third year, I went for an interview down with Dow Chemical Corporation in San Francisco Bay Area, and I got down there and thought, oh man, I don't want to live down here. I really want to live in Smith Valley. After I couldn't wait to get out, I wanted to go back. So I came back to the Valley and I really thought, well, what could I do as a professional woman, as an independent professional woman? And the doctor there at the time was Dr. Mary Fullstone. She'd been there since the teens, was obviously a woman doctor, had delivered my mother. And I thought, well, you know, Dr. Mary's in her 80s, I'll be a doctor. So I came back and literally changed my major to medicine from chemical engineering, but then I lost my scholarship. So I worked 3 jobs at the time, and I got into medicine.
What were you doing? What were those 3 jobs?
I cleaned pens at a veterinarian's office. I became a nurse's aide, and then I cleaned toilets for several churches in Reno. So I had 3 jobs. Oh, and then one other time I was a change girl at the Mapes and carried change in the middle of the night. So working all those jobs to get through school. Knew that it's, and medicine, they own you. You're there 24/7 when you're in medical school. Could not do those jobs working and pay for medical school. Did not want to join the military at the time, did not want to join the public health because I wanted to go back to Smith Valley. So I went to my county commissioners, came up with this idea to go to my county commissioners in Lyon County. And I came up with this contract and this deal that if they'd pay for my next 3 years of medical school, that I'd owe them 3 years afterwards. And they thought that was a good idea.
It was a good deal.
It was a good deal. It was a win-win for both of us.
Yes.
That was 30 years ago. I've now practiced in Smith Valley 30 years. I'm their county health officer. I've been their EMS director. I'm current chief of staff at South Lyon Medical Center. I'm the nursing home director. I've taught residents and students for years. So I'm an associate teacher, a professor at the university. So I've done, and I've paid back what they helped me. But there's not a day that I don't go to work, and I just am blessed that I had that opportunity.
Yes.
And I still feel honored to be there.
And you know, inside of you, you had goals, you had hopes, but there was something about you that pulled you back to your roots.
It's that sense of belonging, that sense of history, that sense that folks in our community, when we want something in Smith Valley, we don't ask the government for it. We build it. We have the best park in Lyon County because we built it. I'm the president of our historical society. That's new since the last time I saw you. And because we felt that so many of our older folks were dying and we were going to lose that sense of community. And a friend came to me, Georgia Fulston, and said, you know, let's do this, let's help preserve this. So Georgia and I, and we convinced some other members of our community to get involved, and we formed the Historical Society. We have since been donated by the Compton family, the little Wellington schoolhouse that my grandmother was a student in and then taught in, and it's been a community effort.
Yes.
And we are now building things and preserving history because we belong, we feel a sense of belonging to that.
You feel a sense of accountability.
Yeah.
For where you came from, the people that surrounded you, that backed you, that believed in you. And you've also, the first time that we were engaged in this interview, you were engaged.
Yes, I have since married the sheriff, Sheriff Alan Vale. And so
That's wonderful, congratulations.
Poor man, he thought he was going to get out of politics and he was retiring this year, and here I am dragging him back in, but he's been incredibly supportive.
He thought he was going to retire, period, probably.
Yes.
Did he have any idea of the dynamo that he was marrying? Had you allowed him to see those sides of your personality?
Well, we have known each other many, many years beforehand, and so yes, I've taken care of his family, and so yes. As a matter of fact, a funny story about us is that his grandmother owned the Wabusca Bar for decades. My uncle bought the Wabusca Bar from his grandmother, so yes, we've known each other a long time.
There's liquor between the two of you.
Yes, there are. Yes, there is.
Well,
liquor and history.
Liquor and history.
Nevada history.
All good history.
Yes.
All good history. So let's take a step forward and assume that you win this race. One of the first items on your agenda, on your bucket list, will be what?
Well, first off, I need to reassure my patients that I'm not retiring.
Yes.
Because I think they're all anxious about that. They want to support me, and they want to help me, they want to vote for me, but they're going, bah, they don't want to lose their doctor. And so my plan is to work on weekends at the hospital, and then when, thank goodness in Nevada we only have legislature every other year for 120 days. So I'll still be involved in medicine.
Okay.
But partly my first objective, Brooke, is to listen. One of the things, first off, we have to understand what the problems are. We have to understand what the issues are, meet with folks who have concerns. The margins tax, for example, huge concern for small businesses.
Why?
Well, because one of the things that's happening with that is that this $1 million tax on the $1 million profit, gross, it's not your profit. And so I've had people come to me and say, oh my goodness, that's about what I make. I've been meeting with businesses in Fallon, and the gentleman said, my gross has been about, in the good years, it was about $2 million. Now it's just $1 million. And he's looked, that's his gross, and that's what the tax is going to be. So he's looked on the gross. And so he's saying, well, what do I do? Do I not work as hard and make a little bit less money? That means maybe I don't have as many employees.
Which goes against the natural grain.
Exactly, because you want to improve, you want to grow. But
yes.
This is kind of a looming tax out there that is very scary to businesses. And now they're looking at that maybe there's some thoughts that they're going to tax you on like businesses. They're going to merge some businesses, some thoughts on how this tax is going to go and where it's going to be applied. So there's quite concern in the business community about this tax.
It seems to me like we have to get back to some real firm basics.
Right.
Not add more laws to the existing laws, but take a look at what we have. Which are the ones that serve all of us well?
Well, I think that I agree 100% that with all the bills that were introduced in the last legislature session, there were good bills that were never even heard because they were so loaded with all these other bills to try to shuffle through all those issues. So I think first off, people have already said, hey, I want to spend some time with you. Here's what I would like for the next legislature session. People in the real estate industry, not just medicine. Because water is a huge issue for Nevada. And we're having less and less water, and we're trying to share more and more with less and less. And so these are, and on my rural community, those are the huge concerns, is what's happening with our water.
And that's concerns for all of us.
Absolutely. How can we stay not just, farming, especially we have a huge ag area in our beautiful communities of Lyon County and Churchill County. And those folks are concerned about what's going to happen there with their water. Or is it going to go into urban development, or is it going to stay to offer to serve some of the communities that we really need to? Where's the food going to come from? Those are huge issues.
And when you live in a desert, as all of the state of Nevada does, those are primal concerns. And to ignore or to not only abuse what little we have left during these years of drought with more and more other peoples, it's not to be selfish, it's to be wise. We may have to cut back on some of the usage. We may have to return to a more sensible way of living in many areas. So without proper consideration and wisdom in those decision-making processes, we're in trouble.
All right. We have worked in our communities. I know in Mason Valley and Smith Valley, where we grow, the Perry's farmers are working very hard. They're the largest onion grower in the nation. And they are trying to conserve water. They are trying to do the best practices to use water. Our ranchers and farmers are very conservative with water, but at the same time, we're trying to conserve water, and we see this waste that is happening. And so it's like we're being asked to do all of this when we're seeing a lot of extra waste. And the water is being fought for many different directions between the local Indian tribes. It's being fought over in our county, between Lyon County and Mineral County.
And between California and Nevada.
California and Nevada.
Right.
And then Harry Reid's involved with Walker Lake. And we're trying to do all the right things. And sometimes we look, is that the best judgment? Is the best judgment to put the water in Walker Lake and let everything else dry up and blow away? Is that the most sense for water?
Yeah. Well, we're trusting. We're trusting you, Robin, okay? Dr. Robin Titus, to watch out for the welfare of Nevada and for the best interests of the people of Nevada and for this area that you represent. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on, Carol.
Thank you. And thank you for listening tonight. I think we all learned quite a bit from Robin. So until we meet again, have a good evening, stay well. Good night.